Welcome to CFRI's Cystic Fibrosis Community Voices, a video podcast series created by and for the cystic fibrosis community.
Hello, everyone. I'm Siri Vaith, Executive Director of CFRI, the Cystic Fibrosis Research Institute, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to this episode of our CF Community Voices podcast program. We look forward to speaking with Ballou Bonnema about the benefits, physical, emotional, and mental, of singing for those who live with CF. Before we get started, I want to remind viewers that no information shared in this podcast should be used for one's medical diagnosis or treatment. And please, before making any changes to your medical regimen, consult with your care team. I also want to thank our sponsors of this podcast, Vertex Pharmaceuticals, Gilead Sciences, Genentech, Chiesi USA, and Viatris. We are very grateful for their support. So let's begin. It is my honor to introduce Ballou Bonnema, who's a professional vocalist from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, the head of a private voice studio, and the founder and executive director of Breathe Bravely, a nonprofit organization dedicated to giving voice to cystic fibrosis. As an adult with CF, Ashley is passionate about advocating for our community on the national and global level. She created Breathe Bravely's flagship program, sINgSPIRE, which is a very innovative approach to contending with CF through the art of singing. We're thrilled to have Ashley with us here for this two-part podcast. In this, part two, Ashley shares what led her to create Breathe Bravely and the sINgSPIRE program and how you can get involved. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor again to be doing the second half of this podcast for this series and talk a little bit specifically about a place in which I've found life's purpose, and I feel truly has been so life-giving, not only to myself, but also to other individuals with cystic fibrosis. So as I had maybe mentioned in the previous podcast, this program, sINgSPIRE, was inspired by my own life as a singer and as a musician. And through some really tumultuous, rough times, through my second year of graduate school, I really truly realized how much singing had saved my life, not only mentally and physically and emotionally, but just to the very core of who I was. And, I thought back to my whole life as kind of a musician and how music really inspired me, just how music affected my cystic fibrosis, affected my life with CF. And, I had spent so many years as a musician specifically trying to separate those paths from each other, because again, who wants to hire a professional vocalist with 45% lung function? A singer who can't breathe? Oh, that doesn't sound so great. So again, I wanted to prove myself as a musician, as a professional, and I wanted CF to be its own thing and to be out of the picture. And, that was pretty destructive for a number of years. And looking back now, would I change it? Probably not. I think it, really unfolded in my life the way it needed to in order to have me truly believe this realization. Not only having it be kind of maybe a small seed in the back of my mind, but to really truly live and breathe it, to know that it's my truth. So the end of my graduate career, I graduated with a performance degree, my master's, and had told a friend that I wanted to start a nonprofit organization in which we focused on utilizing the art of singing to help combat the effects of cystic fibrosis. And I wanted to teach others like me the power of singing within their own life, and that it's not impossible. And I think when you teach somebody that the very breath that you take isn't dictated by a disease, but is simply inspired by a disease, that just opens up the door to allow yourself to believe that anything is possible. And, that kind of just transcends across everybody's life. It's just a ripple, not only from within yourself, but everybody's life that you touch. And so I always say, the moment I allowed myself to speak my truth, which is that I have cystic fibrosis, and I allowed it to marry my passion, which is singing. It's where those intersected, I found my life's purpose and meaning. And that is through Breathe Bravely and the sINgSPIRE program. So in 2015, we became a nonprofit, and it was seemingly simple looking back, in the sense of I was surrounded by all of these brilliant colleagues who truly are like my sisters in so many respects. You know, we make music together, we perform together, and they are brilliant, brilliant vocalists and voice teachers as well. And it was through that specific kind of time in my life when I aired my truth of living with cystic fibrosis and starting the blog, writing the book, that they were a part of all of that. And instead of, you know, shunning me essentially as a musician, they collectively seemed to reach out their hands and pull me closer, which is an incredible thing to find in your life. And so I remember sitting two of them down, who are my very best friends, and said, I have this idea and I want you to help me. At that time, you know, I'm a professional instructor, and we have studios, and you have students come into the studio and you do your thing, you take music lessons, you learn how to sing, and you go on your way. And we have a cystic fibrosis care center here in Sioux Falls. And so I thought, you know, I know they have like 100 and plus pediatrics. I know they have like 50, 60 adults. Like, we've got a lot of people with CF around here. So they agreed to be like, yeah, this is a great idea. We will teach them, because as you know, Siri, that two people with cystic fibrosis can't be in the same space. And so I needed them, their brilliance, and my trust in them to teach what it is that I felt was most influential as a person with cystic fibrosis. So, you know, instead of maybe running the other way, they were like, yeah, let's do this. We want to do this. So I planned out this 10-week program in which individuals would be paired with professional voice instructors. And then it came to find out that even though we have a care center here and they see a pretty large population, we also live in South Dakota and Iowa and Minnesota. And everybody's rural. So everybody travels into the city, whether, you know, it's 30 miles or 50 or etc. So we really had like one or two people in the city besides myself. So that kind of was like, okay, what are we going to do now? We did a pilot program with a student that's local, that I know their family very well, and just to see like, hey, could we do this? And we then received a grant, an impact grant, to start our program for that very first session. And through this like entire time, we're like, what are we going to do? There's not many people around here. We have this idea. And there were several people back in 2015 that said, what about Zoom? So, you know, everybody knows what Zoom is now. Everybody knows what Skype is and Google Meets and all of those things. But when we actually started the program in February of 2017, it was unfounded. It was something that was very foreign to everybody. And also, you know, a lot of people, we were a little skeptical of it. Like, you can't teach music, you can't teach voice that way. That's not how we do it. And I remember going in, I was going to have 5 instructors, including myself, because we were going to just start out with 5 students in our program. And I remember going to all of them and saying, okay, we're going to teach via Zoom, and explaining exactly at that time what Zoom was. And I expected all of them to run in the same kind of idea of like, we don't do that. That's not how we teach music. That's not how it works. And they all looked at me and said, we'll figure it out. We'll do it. And it has been one of the most rewarding, not only for the instructors, but, you know, obviously for the singers that are a part of the program. think back to my first student, via Zoom and being very honest, being like, okay, we're figuring this out because it is very different. There's the time delay. We cannot do anything synchronously. I can't play and have you sing at the exact same time because you always will be at least a beat behind me. And so it's very different, but at the same time, I think it has helped create some of the strongest singers I know, not even with it in our CF community, but also in my own private community. When the pandemic happened, it makes singers learn to be okay with singing and with their voice. And they have to take accountability for how it works because I can't support them over here and cover them up and give them that kind of life raft underneath them. And it also makes them become very aware of their respiratory system, their body. And how I put this program together is, music is something that we use. That's, everybody would consider that an obvious thing when talking about singing lessons. But the foundation of technique, the foundation of any good, helpful singing is breath. And so teaching people how to truly breathe, still, I was just looking at some student reviews that were just coming in, right? We're at the end of our 13th session right now this week. And having the number one comment be the most influential thing that people have taken away from our program, I learned how to breathe. And thinking how that can substantially change someone's life, it's earth-shattering, truly, and you don't even think about it as somebody with CF, just a general population. If you learn how to breathe, how instrumental that can be. But if you have a lung disease, if you have a respiratory illness that is vying to steal every beautiful breath you have, and you feel like you're being controlled by that breath, what does it feel like to have that power given back to you? To use your respiratory system as a tool to gauge your disease and its progress. I remember being in, graduate school and calling my care team and being like, I could sing those 3 measures yesterday, but today I cannot sing those same 3 measures. I can only sing 2. And I imagine the first couple times I called, they'd be like, oh my gosh, this crazy singer. But then quickly realizing just how, lack of better words, in tune I was with my breathing, with how my lungs felt, that we could detect something far sooner than before it blew up and it would show it in another way. And so we know in CF, like time is everything and intervention is everything. So what happens if I could teach other singers, other people with CF, that awareness? What happens if we could strengthen the respiratory system so it becomes something that's fighting a disease with them instead of fighting them and betraying them? So we began our program in 2017 with those 5 students, and it was pretty amazing. I know my very first student, as we got to the end of that session, we would always ask the students, and still do, what have you taken away from this? Was it what you expected, right? And her name was Sam. She won't mind if I say her name. But she, 6 months prior, had just received her second double lung transplant. And, in my mind, I kind of had an idea of what people might say. And she said, I felt like I bonded with my lungs. And she said, from this second transplant, I had these, brand new lungs placed into my body to give me another chance at life. And I didn't feel like they were mine. And I didn't bond with them. I didn't trust them. And through this program, my lungs became a part of me. And it still gives me goosebumps because I don't even know how I responded to them because it was like, again, I was not prepped to hear that. But maybe from early on, it allowed me to realize just how multifaceted and influential and impactful this program truly was and is. And maybe when we began, I also thought it would mostly be, people who are teenagers. Parents are always looking for that maybe extra thing that can help their kid combat CF, and especially something that's fun, right? And if they have an interest in music. But this last session, session 13, we had only 3 students out of 37 under the age of 18. And so a lot of it has been, adults looking for that extra thing. Adults also saying, like, I've always wanted to learn how to sing, and I wanted to learn how to breathe. I want to learn how to use my voice. Or after years and years of coughing, of, inhaling antibiotics and harsh irritants, that they're losing their voice and wondering if there's anything that they can get back. So we see individuals who have 25% lung function up to, well over 100%. And I am weekly amazed at the reiteration of truth at the basis of this program, that it is not the amount of breath that fills your lungs, but it's what you do with that breath. And I'm blown away every single week by that, because it's so true. When people learn how to use their breath, when they learn how to release that tension we carry, you discover your voice and you discover the power of it. And it's that very breath, that beautiful breath, that gives it its power. So we currently are in our 13th session. We're just finishing up. We've had over 100 students go through our program thus far. And to date, over 2,600 lessons via Zoom have been taught. So every session, from that very first session, we open up 5 new spots. During the pandemic last year, when things hit, the CF community went into a greater isolation. They didn't have the ability to, maybe work out the way that they used to, or just even have that ability to connect with other people. And so we opened up our sINgSPIRE program for the capability of accepting more individuals as well, knowing always I wanted this program to meet the need of our community, whatever that looks like. And so at the end of those 10 weeks, individuals, can be invited to continue with us. Or, some individuals are like, you know what, I got everything that I was hoping to get. Thank you so much. This has been life-changing. And then, hopefully they implement some of those techniques, just awareness, breath awareness, that strength within their life. And we have singers who have been with us 11 sessions. 90% of every student that comes into sINgSPIRE continues on for more than 1 session, because it's always, there's never an end goal. That bar is always moving. You're always discovering more and more about yourself. I think maybe one of the most exciting things that I always hear about the program is, the ability to connect with another human on the other side of the screen, and feeling like the possible or the impossible is possible. And that people truly find their voice and how it affects and permeates other areas of their life, gives them more confidence. But also that when they go to do a PFT for the first time, and I always say, let me know when that's going to be, that they trust their body instead of getting into that situation and being like, oh my gosh, I hope I know how to take a deep breath. I don't know what is a deep breath. And ridding yourself of that anxiety, trusting your body and putting it outside of yourself, knowing that singing itself, that breathing itself is so methodical, it's so mental, that if I give you all the tools, you can't do anything but your very best. And I know when we go in to do our PFTs, we have maybe 3 chances, or sometimes we keep going. But the idea is for that consistency every single time, knowing that my body is working for me, knowing that my diaphragm is strong, knowing that I've expanded my capacity to my greatest breath potential, so that the number, whatever it's going to be on the other side, is an adequate reflection of what's really happening here. Because I think, what happens, I think this is as a child myself. Okay, I did a PFT. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was nervous. what happens if my PFT was really low? Would that all of a sudden signal like you're sick? Okay, let's do a course of antibiotics. Let's, have a hospital stay. But what happens if it was just I didn't know how to breathe, and that anxiety got the best of me? Now going in, I know when I blow that PFT and every single one is pretty spot on from the previous one, that's the best reflection of what's really happening here. So that you know, uh, when we need to have intervention, that it can have its greatest purpose and impact, um, and that we have multiple things fighting for us. Um, it also reassures us that our body is working for us and we are in charge of it rather than being at the mercy of these lungs, this breath I don't know exactly how to do, and how that type of breathing, how that breath awareness can truly squelch that anxiety. And I think CF causes us to feel like we lose so much control of our life without any say, that this gives you that power back. So yeah, so we, that breath potential. We work a lot of our first weeks on breath exercises, building that awareness, building that respiratory system, building just the coordination of how your breath works and how you can use that in various ways. And it's something again that can always be changing and always be building. My singers a lot of times put this in correspondence with their physio for the day, regardless if they're from Canada or they're from Sweden or they're from the United States, and we all do physio just a little bit different. How can this amplify what you're doing and also give you that extra sense of control of how you're battling CF? So then we take that, those breath exercises, and we allow people to discover their voice through that breath. That a lot of times when we sing, we think that we just are pushing sound out of our body, but in all actuality, it's that breath that's leading your voice out of your body. So instead of creating or making, we're letting our voice free and allowing people to really find their most optimum voice, because CF has a lot of harsh effects on our vocal folds. And that is one thing that is so tied to our quality of life. And if people don't understand what it's like to be hoarse all the time, to have those effects from coughing, that it literally hurts to speak or communicate, those people aren't going to communicate, or that's all they're going to think about. Or they're going to think about, okay, I need to be quiet because it hurts when I speak. Well, if you stop speaking, you stop connecting. And our image of ourself, our self-worth is so tied to that connection, to that ability to communicate with others, that I truly think it's an unseen epidemic, in which we can give people the power to overcome. Does that mean we stop inhaling harsh antibiotics? Absolutely not. Does that mean we stop coughing? No, absolutely not. But what happens if we were each given the tools to know how to use our voice and keep it most healthy despite all of those things? And this isn't just talking about individuals within the CF community. This is a problem culturally about voice usage and voice hygiene and voice health. And giving people tools as well when they're doing those harsh antibiotics to better alleviate that hoarseness, that raspiness, that CF gravel kind of sound that we all can get. And there's nothing more central to the core of who we are than our voice, because I know we've maybe all had this, in which somebody has made a comment about our voice, whether it's speaking or it's singing. And I can right away in my mind, I can go to that moment and how damaging it is to us and our vocal image of ourselves. And, singing and speaking is so intertwined, that if you understand how to use one correctly, the other one is going to be just the same. And we've all had this situation where we maybe hear a recording of ourselves and we're like, whoa, that's me. Oh, and it feels like we've been lied to all our life. And it's something that we don't get used to. And it's horrifying because we become embarrassed and we're like, oh my gosh, how can you believe yourself? You sound like a little kid. But singing and speaking is about how the breath feels within your body in resonance, and not about what we hear. Because as an individual, we hear the reflection of sound off of our skull, off of our, oropharynx and nasopharynx and our sinus cavities. So we hear everything from within. So we hear a lot of these low frequencies where the rest of the world is hearing everything outside of ourselves. So it's very freeing when we learn how to trust our breath. We learn about how sound feels in our body, how sound feels in our mouth and in this resonant space, that we're freed and confident in who and what we are, rather than maybe want to manipulate our voice or be silent. So our sINgSPIRE program, touches on all of those things within 10 weeks. We utilize music then as a tool to take those techniques, to take that methodology and apply it to music. So you're not only learning one song, you're learning the art of singing. So you can go and sing anything and know how to do it, that nothing's going to keep you from singing what you want to sing. Is it maybe going to be challenging? Yeah, but that's how you learn about your voice even more so. That's how you learn about utilizing your technique, utilizing your instrument. In 2019, that summer, being a part of ensembles is still, when we can finally get back together and make music together, has been some of the most influential times of my life. And that's, how I know all of our incredible teachers for sINgSPIRE is I've made music with them. And standing next to them, breathing next to them, and melding your voice with somebody else's, there's nothing like it. There's absolutely nothing like it. There's this electricity and this power and this life that takes on its own, that you can only create by doing that. It's not, you can't recreate it. It's one of the most authentic things. And so thinking in the CF community, we would never be able to do that. We can't get into a great hall, into a cathedral. We can't go to a performing arts center and sing together. But those people a part of the choirs that I've been in are my family. They're my best friends. They're the people who I trust to be a part of our CF community, and who I trust the CF community to work with or invite into our CF community and be a part of it. And I wanted our community to experience that to a certain extent. So in 2019, we started the sINgSPIRE virtual choir. And, again, now we scroll through our news feeds or social media, and one after another, it's all virtual performances and virtual choirs. But in 2019, that was pretty unfounded. So these singers came together, defying a diagnosis, creating something so much greater than themselves. In a way, kind of like sticking it to CF, that we are stronger than you will ever be. We will be stronger together. And when we all resume somewhat normalcy and we can make music together and people can come together in large groups in that sense for performances, this is what we will still have. And I know some people, having experienced Zoom in the last year, think that Zoom is less than, or virtual is less than, or maybe things aren't as authentic as if you're in person. And I wholeheartedly beg to differ. I have some of my very most dear and best friends that we joke about this, that I've never seen their legs or they've never seen mine. I don't know what the front of their house looks like. I don't know what their, out their window looks like. But the catalyst of connection that has occurred because of this platform and doing something so vulnerable as singing I dare to say it could not be created in person. And so while they are very different of doing things in person or this way, this is all we will ever have. And it's truly a life-changing thing to know such people and work with such people in that capacity, and to share a life like that, celebrating their successes through all of this, enduring maybe the greatest struggles alongside of them. And at the end of the day, each of them, whether it's a part of the choir, whether it's a part of our virtual, sINgSPIRE program of individual lessons, that they are never alone, and that there's somebody on the other side of the screen who sees them for them and celebrates them being a singer with CF.